Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and in this video we're going to talk about the Facebook purge, and also we're going to talk about the alternate reality that those on the left are living in. By this time, I'm sure you all know that Facebook purged many conservative pages the other day, and they claimed that it was because they were spamming. This concerned about 60 million people who were following those pages. So it wasn't just a small thing, this was major, and some of them were pretty well-known names. Now, the Western Journal here has made a list of the ones that they've been able to find out through Google searches have been removed. This is not a comprehensive list. Facebook will not release that list, but this gives you kind of an overview of what they were. Now, as far as I know, if I remember correctly, Daily Vine is just something that gave inspirational stories. I can't imagine why they would have been targeted, but they were. And a lot of these are right-wing, not all of them. There are some libertarian ones, and there are also a few liberal ones sprinkled in. I think they're like the token liberal ones they put in so they could say, see, it was on both sides. It's amazing which ones they chose for conservatives, like the right-wing news. They had 3.6 million people, and they removed them. Just poof, they were suddenly gone. This is something that's a huge blow to conservatives, but it's also exposing what the left are like, and we're going to talk about why they're doing this. This is planned, this is orchestrated, but I'm sure you probably already knew that. So here's the list. I'm not going to go down all of them because it's kind of a lengthy list, but it's not near all of them. When I started putting this together, there are so many articles out there that are really good reads that I kind of got caught up in it. The first time I tried recording this, it was like really long. So I want to cut it down because I want to be more concise. I'll put a lot of links below that I'm not including in the actual video, just because they're interesting to read. There are some of them from non-conservative sites, so be aware of that and remember the spin they put on it, but understand that this is a huge event. And this article right here, I just wanted to point out to you because I think it's very important why the coordinated alternative media purge should terrify everyone. Soon those who hate freedom will have unquestioned access to the minds of 2 billion people. Yesterday, the alternative media purge was boldly advanced in a coordinated effort. It is coordinated, we'll talk about that in a minute, to silence people who dissent from establishment views. It's just one more step toward a monopoly on information by those who hate freedom. If they're allowed to do this and it's not stopped, this means that they will be able to push whatever propaganda they want and nobody will be able to challenge them. This is what those in power fear the most, because they know that whoever controls the media is going to control the narrative and therefore the minds of the American people. This is what we're seeing a battle for right now. I came across this Ben Swann video. If you're not familiar with who Ben is, he's one of the few investigative journalists out there. And I don't always agree with what he says, but he does unearth a lot of good, interesting facts that I think people need to be aware of. In this particular one, he's tying the organization Media Matters with George Soros and this whole social media purge. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole video because I don't want to get a content strike, and I also want you to go watch the whole thing for Ben and maybe subscribe to him because I think he's a good channel to follow. But I do want to show you a little clip as an introduction to what we're going to hit in just a minute.
Well, the memo is more than 18 months old. It was written in January of 2017 and handed out to about 100 big money donors at a retreat in Florida, where Media Matters for America founder David Brock was attempting to raise $40 million for his organizations. That memo is titled Democracy Matters: Strategic Plan for Action. In it, 49 pages to explain how Democrats will defeat President Trump over the next 4 years. But there's more to it than just that. See, this memo has really not been hidden, but it's some of what that memo says that will be a plan of action that we're actually seeing take place right now. And that's what makes it interesting. According to the Free Beacon, the memo contains plans for defeating Trump through impeachment, expanding Media Matters' mission to combat government misinformation, more on that in a minute, ensuring Democratic control of the Senate in the 2018 midterm elections, filing lawsuits against the Trump administration, monetizing political advocacy using a digital attacker to delegitimize Trump's presidency and to damage Republicans, and also, get this, partnering with Facebook to combat fake news. It's that part about fake news that is especially interesting and very important, considering the fact that we are now seeing this massive purge of dissenting voices on both the right and the left. We're talking about libertarians and progressives. Only the establishment left and establishment right are not being purged. See, the document obtained by the Free Beacon states that Media Matters, which has been funded, by the way, by George Soros since 2010, and other Soros-funded groups, have, quote, access to raw data from Facebook, Twitter, and other social media sites so they can systemically monitor and analyze this unfiltered data. So why would these organizations have access to raw, unfiltered Facebook and Twitter data? And what would be done with this information? Now look at this. The top outcomes in the document for Media Matters, they include, quote, serial misinformers and right-wing propagandists inhabiting everything from social media to the highest levels of government will be exposed, end quote. Okay, nothing wrong with exposing people who are misinforming the public. The question is, are they misinforming? But then look at this outcome. Internet and social media platforms like Google and Facebook will no longer uncritically and without consequence host and enrich fake news sites and propagandists. So in that case, Facebook and Google will no longer allow news sites to exist on their platforms that aren't establishment left. Wow, because that seems to be exactly what we are seeing right now.
I'll link to the article from the Free Beacon below, but here's the memo that it refers to. This is the David Brock confidential memo on fighting Trump. No wonder they wanted it confidential, because they really didn't want us to know what they were doing. This outlines their battle plan against Trump. And the reason I say battle plan is because they're using a lot of battle type words to indicate what they're trying to do. This is a strategy. It's a battle plan for them. And it was done over January 19th through the 21st of 2017, and POTUS was inaugurated on the 20th. While POTUS was being inaugurated, these people were plotting to take him down. You'll see as we go. I'm not going to read the whole thing, obviously, because it's 49 pages, but there are some major things I want to point out at the beginning here, and then I will have the link below and you can read it for yourself. These organizations right here, Media Matters is run by David Brock, and this is one of the major things, and under it, it has these other organizations that it's coordinating, the American Bridge, Crew, Share Blue, and you'll see about those in just a minute. And of course, they were very devastated because Trump won. This is not what we planned, but it's what we're built for. They were created just in case something happened. And you'll see what their actual creation was for in a minute here. The progressive infrastructure groups we've built together were started long before Hillary Clinton ran for president. Consider that, long before. These have been put in place to spread propaganda to U.S. citizens. They were always intended to be the first line of defense and offense when we are under siege. Like I said, these military terms are going to come up. If we keep fighting, our groups will last. We will continue to build for the future, and we will win again. We have the mandate. Together, we won the popular vote, and Democrats picked up seats in the Senate and the House. They believe that since they won the popular vote, they have this mandate. Trump is the least popular incoming president in modern history, and the outgoing president and popular vote winner are again the most admired man and woman in the nation. I'm telling you, they're living in an alternate reality. And if you remember in one of my previous videos, I had the verse from Isaiah 5:20 that says, woe to those who call good evil and evil good. This is what they're doing. It's a topsy-turvy world. They see evil as good, and they see good as evil. And so for them, they think Trump is the least popular. They think that Obama and Clinton were the most admired in the entire United States. Seriously? Who admires Hillary Clinton? The country did not vote for Trump-style change. Hey, surprise, surprise. I voted for Trump-style change. And everyone I know who voted for Trump-style change. So I'm not sure where they're getting that information. Again, they're living in an alternate reality. It's like it's a totally different world from their point of view. Trump has the legal authority, but we have the moral authority and the moral responsibility to oppose him. These are the same people that are doing all this garbage with the children. It's hard for me to see them talking about morality in any way, shape, or form, but yet they do. They think they're taking the moral high ground, that they have a moral responsibility to oppose Trump. We will fight every day. We are going to fight for the things in which we believe, and we are going to fight against any attempt to erode the cornerstone work and values of the progressive movement and this pluralistic nation. Look at this next one. We are going to resist the normalization of Donald Trump. If you watch my Why Young Blood video, and if you watch the one on, quote, hilarious t-shirts, then you understand what we're talking about, normalization. They're trying to normalize things. One thing they don't want normalized is Donald Trump or any of us that hold conservative values. Now, before I go on, I want you also to remember the video I did on projection with Nancy Pelosi. This is an example of projection right here. They're going to accuse Trump of the very things they're guilty of. That's projection. His every conflict of interest, his every bit of cronyism, his every move toward authoritarianism, his every subversion of our democratic systems and principles, his every radical departure from foreign and domestic policy norms. So, like a conflict of interest, like when Bill Clinton went overseas and did all those speeches for all that money while his wife was the Secretary of State. How about all the pay-to-play that the Clintons did? Conflict of interest? Every bit of cronyism? Maybe how Barack Obama brought in a bunch of Muslim Brotherhood people in his administration, and he worked it so they didn't have to have background checks? Authoritarianism. Let's see. Trump wants the people to have the power, and they call that authoritarianism. So you can see they're projecting. What the left is guilty of, they're accusing the Republicans of doing. We're going to contest every effort at every level of government to limit rights. Look at this. They're going to contest every effort to limit rights. Hey, how's that working with the gun control laws? And then there's the social media purge that's going on right now. How's that contesting an effort to limit rights? I think they need to be contesting themselves at this point. Rescind protections. What protections has he rescinded? He wants to build a wall to protect us. Entrench inequality. Well, we're not even going to talk about that because the white men are guilty of everything just because they're white men, so they say. So much for equality there. Redistribute wealth upwards. That's about a president who has given his salary to charity every quarter, who has been taking a loss in his businesses because he stepped back. This is crazy. And I can tell you personally, as somebody who is definitely not upwards in the wealth cycle, and yet I still have more money because of the tax cuts. Or in any other way fundamentally undermine the tenets of egalitarianism that must serve as the bedrock of our democracy. We will apply lessons learned. Oh, I wish they'd learn lessons. Generally speaking, and simply put, Democrats got clobbered in the digital space. Meaning, we, the people, actually got our voices out there, and they felt that clobbered them. Digital programs, both tactical and messaging, failed to actively listen to and engage the online grassroots universe. Yeah, us. We engaged the online grassroots universe, not them, and they lost control, and it made them mad. The Trump camp spoke effectively to the grassroots. You bet he did. And relied on online channels to disseminate information and misinformation. You're going to see this word misinformation a lot because they use it in conjunction with conservatives anytime. Because it's used throughout to point out what conservatives say. Anything conservatives say is misinformation or, even worse, disinformation. Misinformation and influence the media. Even getting fake stories onto cable TV. Fake stories. Now, this whole fake news thing was their tactic when it first came in. They were anticipating using this to get rid of Trump because they thought if they could label everything conservative as fake news, then they would have the power over the people. But when Trump started coming back and pointing them out as fake news, this changed the dynamic. The mainstream media is not happy about him doing that, but it was so vital for the American people. We had to break through that control they have over the media. And the way to do it was to expose the fake news. And now, when people at the rallies hear CNN, they immediately start chanting, CNN sucks, because we know they're doing fake news. We know it's happening all the time. And because of what Trump has done, we've broken through that barrier. And that's an important factor because this was their plan since he became president, and actually before, because they were implementing parts of this before that. So we needed a champion who could break through that, and that's what Trump has done by pointing out fake news. That is one of the most essential things we needed to get our country back. We had to break through that barrier. Then look what it says here. And the right colonized Facebook. I didn't know we colonized it. Which has established a virtual monopoly on information distribution. Yes, Facebook has a big monopoly on information distribution, which is why, even though it's a private company, it needs some kind of monitoring. Because of its size, it can't be allowed to censor certain voices. Our digital efforts were largely focused on changing the narrative with the traditional media versus voters. This worked to a point, but it wasn't enough in the face of a news media incentivized by profit. Yeah, like they're not in it for profit. And access, and fearful of intimidation and bullying by the Trump forces. Trump forces. Ooh, we have power. Trump forces. What is the poor little mainstream media going to do? Because they're going to be intimidated and bullied by the Trump forces. When I first read this, I laughed through most of this. I mean, it's sad in a sense, but it's funny because of this alternate reality they live in. They have truly built this up, and I think they're believing it themselves. I don't know. And so the Trump forces, yay, Trump force. We will fully adapt to the new reality, and we will win. Here's how. Remember, this was going on while our POTUS was being inaugurated. This is what these people were doing. So here's how they're going to do it. In the next 4 years, Media Matters will continue its core mission of disarming right-wing misinformation while leading the fight against the next generation of conservative disinformation. I'm telling you, everything conservative is either misinformation, which means we're putting things out there and they're false, but we don't know they're false. Or disinformation, where we know it's false and we're putting it out there. Let's see who does that. CNN, MSNBC? You know, pretty much the mainstream media does this a lot. This again is projection, psychological projection, accusing us of the very things they do. The proliferation of fake news and propaganda now threatening the country's information ecosystem. Oh, threatening. Here's what success will look like. Now, before I get into this, I want to tell you a couple things. First of all, you probably know this, but I'm a writer. And as a writer, I like words. I love the way they fit together and they can express ideas. The people who wrote this were chosen for how they use their words. The left has a habit of using emotionally charged words. They want words that will not only give you the intellectual ideas, but they also want words that will affect your emotions. So as we go through this, think of the emotions that are evoked by some of these words. They were very specific in their choices of these words. Serial misinformers. Okay, serial. When do we hear serial most? When you hear the word serial, you expect the next word to be killers. Serial killers, right? Isn't that what people use serial in front of the most? Well, serial misinformers. So they're using that word, serial, giving a little bit of an emotional connotation to the rest of the sentence. So serial misinformers and right-wing propagandists. Okay, propagandist is used a lot through here because to them, anybody who has a strong conservative point of view is a propagandist. Inhabiting everything from social media to the highest levels of government will be exposed, discredited. I'm all for exposing people who are corrupt and for people who are doing the wrong thing. I'm fine with that. What I'm not fine with is how they define these terms. And this is something else to keep in mind as you're going through this. Just because they're using a common term, it does not necessarily mean it's being defined the same way you or I might think. I found this when I was running our online chat ministry years ago, that when people said the word God, they didn't necessarily mean the same kind of definition for God as I thought when I heard it. If I say the word God, it has a certain connotation to me. It can have a totally different meaning to somebody who is Muslim, or someone who is Buddhist, or someone who is atheist. Even though the same word is used, the concept conveyed can be totally different. So keep in mind that they are talking to their base, who are living in this alternate reality, who think Trump is evil and that Hillary is good. I'm not sure how that could be, but That's how they think. So keep that in mind as we're going through, because their definition of these words is going to come clear through the context, but they're not defining them the same way we would. Internet and social media platforms like Google and Facebook will no longer uncritically and without consequence host and enrich fake news sites and propagandists. Okay, now up here we found out that serial misinformers, right-wing propagandists, that's what they're calling all of us. All of us who don't agree with this progressive agenda are right-wing propagandists. Google and Facebook will no longer uncritically and without consequence host and enrich fake news sites and propagandists. I want you to look carefully at this. Without consequence. In other words, they're going to bully them. Look at this one. Again, starting out with the words, remember the emotionally charged words, toxic. Toxic, alt-right, to them, alt-right is anyone who is not a rhino. But anyone who is actually a conservative, alt-right. So remember, when they're defining this, when they're using this term, that's what they're talking about, alt-right. It's anyone who does not espouse liberal values and who is not willing to sell out to them. Toxic, alt-right, social media-fueled harassment campaigns. Harassment is another word they've redefined, and it means anything that goes against what they're trying to sell us. That's silence dissent. Okay, silence dissent. Who's silencing dissent? Purging 800 Facebook pages? That's not silencing dissent. How about all the Twitter accounts that have been suspended? And all the shadow banning that was going on? But no, it's the Republicans that are silencing dissent. And poison. See, there's that emotionally charged word again. Poison. Our national discourse will be punished and halted. These people are not just talking about stopping conservative voices. They want to punish us. When I get done with this part, I'm going to show you how YouTube has been punishing some of our conservative people. The American Bridge, it was one of those that was listed in their subgroups that are working together in this, will cement itself as the standard bearer of opposition research, build on its role as a progressive clearinghouse for information that drives the narrative on Republican office holders and candidates. Drives the narrative. They want to be in control of the narrative and be at the epicenter of Democrats' work to regain power starting in 2017 and building to 2020. Here's what success will look like. Now remember, this was being done while Donald Trump was being inaugurated. The very day. This is what they were doing. Trump will be defeated either through impeachment or at the ballot box in 2020. There was no reason to talk about impeachment except they lost the election, they lost their power, and they wanted it back in any way, shape, or form. This is what they were after. From square one, while he was being inaugurated, they were planning how to impeach him. The balance of power will shift back to Democrats. We will measurably impact U.S. Senate, gubernatorial, and state legislative races. This is all the more reason you need to get out there and vote for midterms. We've got to stop these power-mad people. We will free ourselves from solely relying on the press. Our robust digital program will reach voters directly online. And we'll come across why that is. Crew is another one of their groups that I showed you at the beginning, will be the leading nonpartisan ethics watchdog group in a period of crisis with a president and administration that present possible conflicts of interest and ethical problems on an unprecedented scale. Ethical problems like using the IRS to target conservative groups? Or how about using your FBI to spy on an opposition candidate's campaign? Yeah, ethical considerations. Or maybe it's like Hillary Clinton deleting all those emails and setting it up so that other countries could easily hack into these classified documents. Or how about Maxine Waters, where she's calling for people to harass Republicans? Yeah, ethical problems. Crew will demand ethical conduct from the administration and all parts of government. I'm still waiting to see him act on Maxine. expose improper influence from powerful interests, and ensure accountability when the administration and others shirk ethical standards, rules, and laws. They have not been actually looking for ethical violations because the ethical violations are like Dianne Feinstein having a Chinese spy as her chauffeur for 20 years. How about the ethical violation where she and her staff leaked this letter from this woman who wanted to remain anonymous? Where's the accountability for those ethical violations? Now let's look down at the next part. Trump will be afflicted by a steady flow of damaging information, new revelations, and an inability to avoid conflicts issues. See, this is exactly what they're doing. They're putting out a steady flow of damaging information. This is what they've been doing. The new revelations are basically things they make up. They just create them. Because if they plaster it in big headlines on the front page or the top of the article or all across TV screens, then people will see it and they'll say, oh, look at that. Isn't that just awful? And then when they come back to retract it, nobody pays any attention to the retraction. So the falsehoods stay out there. You know, the whole thing about Trump mocking a disabled reporter, it's been debunked many times. I had somebody mention it just the other day to me. It's like, really? Do you still believe that? Did you not know that's not true? But no, they don't, because they saw it. They've not seen the retraction, because the retractions are done very subtly, so people don't pick those up. All they see are their big headlines. They assume that's true. The Trump administration will be forced to defend illegal conduct in court. And that's happening too. That's what they've been doing. And then it goes on, and I know this is getting to be a long video, but there's so much in here. Look at this one. We will delegitimize Donald Trump's presidency. These people are out to get him. This is what they've decided to do in any way they can. And when you look at it, it's almost like sedition. I don't know any other way to explain it. This is what they're doing. They're going against him. They're trying to attack the President of the United States. Look at this second one here. Trump allies will be forced to step down or change course due to news pushed by Share Blue. Share Blue is going to bully them. They're going to put out bad press to try to eliminate them. And they're going to do just what I said. They put out these huge headlines that say something bad about a Republican. And then when they have to retract it, it's in very small print or it's a tweet that nobody even looks at. In fact, if you go to Twitter, you can see this in action. They have this tweet that is dirt on some Republican or President Trump. And then it's retweeted over and over and over by all these liberals. And then when they have to retract it, nobody retweets those, and so the message doesn't get out. They assume what they heard was true. This is what mudslinging is. They sling the mud, and they're hoping some of it'll stick, because people are too lazy to go look things up for themselves or to get the full story. They don't care. They hear something bad about Trump, and because the media has pushed them against him, that's all they want to hear, and so they don't even go any farther. They never question it. Look at this. Not only are they attacking Trump, but they're also attacking his allies. And under pressure from Share Blue, Democrats will take more aggressive positions against Trump. That means moderates like Indiana's Joe Donnelly, they get the pressure on him. And if he does not acquiesce to what they're saying, he is not going to survive in the political camp. This just happened with Kavanaugh. Donnelly normally has been a voice of reason among the Democrats when it comes down to things like that. Now, he's not always voted against them, but quite often in something like this where he's just confirming a Supreme Court justice, he would have voted with the Republicans. But he can't now because of this pressure they're putting on him. And he really has changed his stance. He's become more of a party line man ever since Trump came into office. Let's go down to page 7. I mean, really, there's so much in here to read, and it's just amazing what all it is. It's their alternate reality. It really is. On this page, we've got one of their major beefs has to do with Donald Trump using his Twitter account. Why? Because he uses it, look what they say, to manipulate news cycles. Yes, he does. With lies? Oh no, he's telling the truth. They call it lies, obviously, and you'll come across this a lot when you talk to liberals, because when they come to me and they say, oh, well, he lies all the time, Tell me what lie he's making. Because he doesn't lie. He may say things that are a little outrageous. He may say something that is not current knowledge yet, but it ends up being true. Like when he said Obama's people wiretapped him. They did. We're finding that out now. We know for sure he was right on it. And we have to remember he's the president. He's got a lot more access to intel than we do. He knows things we don't. And you can tell that sometimes because if you listen carefully, he makes hints to it. He did that in the 60 Minutes interview a couple times. Anyway, so they're upset about him manipulating the news cycle, attacks press outlets that produce critical stories about him. It's never been about whether they're critical about him. It's a matter of them making up stories to be critical about him. If you have a legitimate beef with Trump, I don't think he would have a problem with that. What he has a problem with is when somebody says something about him and it's just not true. It's patently false. That would upset me too. I've had it happen many times in my life where people have accused me of things that are just ludicrous. It's frustrating. I can't even imagine what it's like to be Trump because he's had so much of this. He's definitely chosen for this job because there is no way most men or women could handle that. And he shares stories from fake news purveyors. In other words, he shares stories from the conservatives and conspiracy websites, that's anyone who basically disagrees with the left, and right-wing news outlets. Again, right-wing news outlets. A Republican president tweeting articles from right-wing news outlets? Oh my goodness, let's hang him up from his thumbs. I mean, really, what do they expect him to do? He's a Republican. He ran on the Republican ticket. Why wouldn't he tweet articles from right-wing news sources? These people. Let's go on because I know it's getting long, but there's just so much here. I'm going to do just a little bit more here. Look at the sandwich between two realities. This is what they think they are. We describe the media landscape ahead as being sandwiched between two realities. And it is two realities. Their reality and our reality, which is real reality. They don't want to see it. And I think they've bought into their own lies. The ones that know about it, they bought into it. Anyway, going on. Here's an interesting one where basically they didn't like the idea that Trump was calling in to so many different TV shows and getting interviews that way. He didn't actually have to be there. He would just call it in. And they loved it. And that's how he got a lot of his interviews when he was campaigning. Well, they didn't like that. That ticked him off a lot because he shouldn't have to do that. So they put pressure on CBS News and NBC News and bullied them into publicly stating that they discontinue his phone privileges. This is the perfect picture of bullying. These people are bullying big time. Let me go down here to page 10. Here's page 10. And on this one, we have this wonderful little headline right here. Media advocacy, punish, enabling, and complacency. Media Matters will be vigilant in holding news media accountable for even the slightest bit of normalization of Trump. I mean, how brutal is that? We will encourage journalists to defend standard practices like the protective press pool and media credentialing and strive for higher standards against this new threat. I mean, but look at that. The slightest bit of normalization of Trump. They're not just going to stop it. They're going to punish it. They use the word punish a lot, and we need to remember that's what bullies do. Bullies punish people who don't do things the way they want them to. Let me go on. Okay, on this one, it's talking about Facebook. After Facebook responded to our campaign by acknowledging the problem of fake news and agreeing to do something about it, we began a dialogue. So they worked with Facebook. It became clear from these conversations that Facebook needed our help in fully understanding the problem and identifying concrete solutions. Further, it also became clear that we had information and insight that they didn't have that was helpful in educating them on the full scope of the problem. For example, Media Matters had a detailed map of the constellation of right-wing Facebook pages that had been the biggest purveyors of fake news, as well as insight into the food chain of fake news and how it was moving through the Facebook ecosystem. They've been keeping track of what conservatives were doing so they could tell Facebook, hey, look, see, these are bad and these connections are bad. I would bet that these people, Media Matters, told them who to purge. Let's continue on. Now here you're going to see they say something about us. These alt media sites, they are largely dependent upon social media behemoths that tolerate their abusive activity. Again, they say it's abusive. Anytime we disagree with them, it's abusive. Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, and Twitter have permitted the alt-right's presence. Look at that. Just our presence has been permitted, and that's a bad thing, with some rare but notable exceptions. They operate on the edge of the law. Now, I'm not sure what they mean by that, why they're saying that we operate on the edge of the law. I have no clue where they're getting that. Their efforts are largely financed on thin profit margins, which means we don't make much money off of this. And their membership consists of weak individuals, often recruited into the movement because they fear or resent women and or harbor racial animosity. Are they serious? This is crazy. So people are conservatives because they resent women. Well, that's news to me. Hello, woman here, not resenting women. Or harbor racial animosity. They're playing the race card again. Hey, if all else fails, call them a racist. And that's what they do. Page 14. Now, they just insulted us as conservatives. Now they're going to insult their own people. Okay? Too many Facebook users sit silent as extremism and misinformation fill their news feeds. Progressives in particular are significantly less likely to challenge content that pops up in their feeds compared to their conservative counterparts. So in other words, progressives will sit there and just accept whatever they see. This is a real insult to people who are progressives. This shows so clearly that these elites have this idea of regular people as being nothing more than sheep, and they can do whatever they want with us. It amazes me that they get away with this. Where are their people? Well, they're just not awake yet. And this is what we need the American population to wake up. Liberals, I have news for you. This is what they think of you. They think you are too stupid to question anything that pops up in your Facebook feed. And you need them to make the decisions for you because they can't allow you to do it. You are not smart enough to do that on your own. Words fail me when I see stuff like this. It's incredible. I want to take you to just one more here. And this is about their American bridge. This is what they're about. Defeating Trump, regaining power. American Bridge will cement itself as the standard bearer of opposition research, build on its role as a progressive clearinghouse for information that drives the narrative on Republican office holders and candidates, and be at the epicenter of Democrats' work to regain power starting in 2017 and building to 2020. This is what they want to do. They want to drive the narrative about Republicans, and they have been succeeding. Sadly so, but they have been. And this is why Trump's attack on fake news was so important. We need the narrative to change directions. We need it to be honest news, not some narrative that's being forced on us. So that's all I'm going to say about this. There's so much more to read, but please take the time. The link will be down below. It's well worth your read. You're going to see exactly what they're doing. This is their battle plan. And I think the Q team has known this all along, and they've been using this to stop them and to set traps for them. And it's been working wonderfully. This is why when you go to a Trump rally, when he talks about the fake news media, everybody boos him. Because people are starting to wake up. They're seeing what they're doing. But everybody needs to hear what's in this document, because once you see this is their plan, then when you're watching it unfold on TV, it's so much easier to say, look, they're just doing this to get rid of Trump. Look at what they're doing. This is part of the plan. They put this stupid plan down, and they didn't expect it to get out. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Ha! I wanted to share that with you. And then this last thing that I want to share is a clip from a video. It's a way that they're trying to squeeze the conservatives out. Now, you probably know that YouTube videos can be monetized. Mine aren't yet because I put in and it's going to be a month before I find out. I'm not even sure I want to go that route and let them give me grief over it because of what's really happening to a lot of conservatives. Usually when videos come out, the first 24 to 48 hours is when they get the most views. That means that if they're monetized, that's when the most income is probably going to be generated. What happens a lot of times, and I don't know if you're familiar with Mark Dice's channel, definitely a channel you might want to check out. The same thing happens to Mark Dice. What YouTube is doing, they're taking those videos and as soon as they go up, they're demonetizing them. The person has to put in a request asking for them to recheck it, and it takes about a week for YouTube to do that. And then maybe they will, maybe they won't monetize it again. Even if they do, the majority of the views have already passed. Instead of getting the income from that video and all the views that it had, you'll get significantly less money off of it because the major portion of the views have already been done. And with the bigger channels, now not mine obviously, but the bigger channels, when you have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, this could mean thousands of dollars of lost revenue. This is the way they're doing it. They figure if they can cut down the revenue on these conservatives, they can get us out. And we'll just determine, well, we are not making any money, so we're going to leave. This is why you're seeing a lot of conservatives use Patreon as the way of raising funds because YouTube is doing this to them and basically stealing thousands of dollars a year from conservatives. So let me show you the clip and you'll get to see his page. I mean, they didn't do it to just one of his videos. They did it to all of his videos. I'm just going to show you a little clip. You can watch the whole video down below.
But this is it. I'm going to show you guys because this is crazy. So first of all, you see on this front page, these are the last few videos I've made. And the reason why you see most of these videos as being monetized right now is because these are videos that they've already used their completely ambiguous and subjective guidelines to go after and have had to confirm the status of. Now, the way this works is when they do this, when they put not suitable for most advertisers, I can request a review. But in order to get a review, the video that I have to request it on basically has to have 1,000 views within 7 days. And you think, well, that's not hard. Well, of course it's not hard if it's a video that I've just posted, like this last video right here, which they literally put this tag on within a minute of it being up. And they're targeting my content. They're targeting my channel, this channel. The work that we do here has been basically targeted. Now I'm going to show you what they've done to every video I've ever made, going back months. If you go to the next page, right? Let's go to the next page and look at this. You can see here. They're confirming by manual review. But then these ones with the blue button that says request, these are new ones. See, these are videos that were posted, allowed to be monetized, and now have arbitrarily been demonetized. And the reason that it's basically a complete attack against my channel is because when they do this, they know that it's hard for a video that's almost a month old to get 1,000 views in 7 days. Because the way my videos work, I get the majority of my views in the first 24 to 48 hours, which is when they go after them usually to shut down my ability to earn a living. But look at what they've done. They've gone back and they've started marking these old videos. Now, the ones that you see that remain green are videos they've already, I repeat, already marked as not suitable, and I've requested a review and then they've been overturned, so they can't do it again. But they've gone after every other video in my channel. They're trying to kill this channel. They're trying to destroy my ability to compete in the marketplace. And this is targeted. They don't care. They don't care if they destroy me. They don't care if they destroy Justice Kavanaugh. They don't care if they destroy you. You know what they care about? They care about controlling information. They care about suppressing people like myself, you guys, and others who want to talk their own truth. And they want to do it all under the guise of, oh, well, we're completely impartial, when they know they're not. And I rely on this to support my family. Look at what they've done to my channel. Look at this. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to do. I don't know who to complain to. I've tried writing them letters. I've tried having conversations with them. Do you know what those always get me? They get me the same generic, ridiculous, unhelpful responses.
So this is what's happening to a lot of conservatives that are content creators on YouTube. All the links will be below. Make sure you go back and read that whole document because it's an eye-opener. Share it with people. Let them know that this is a plan to overthrow our president. Thanks for stopping by. See you later.